Hey everybody, this is Emily back at you with Fret Planet. Today I've got 4 simple tricks you can use to make your chords more interesting. Stick with me, you'll be glad you did. Alright, so trick number 1 here is to take some of the chords that you already know, like for example, maybe you know a bunch of these open position chords, right? Like C, G, and D, right? Okay, or maybe you know something like A, E, D, E. Okay, and some clever strum patterns to go with those, right? We can take these shapes that you already know, and we can create more interesting chords by using the notes around them, around the shapes that are familiar to you. For example, if you're playing this D shape right here, you can create 2 easy suspended chords. Now, you don't need to know what that means right now, so don't panic. By just moving the note that's on the first string either up 1 fret or down 2 frets, which would make it open. So check it out. Here's the D shape. If I take my pinky here and I put it up to the 3rd fret first string, in other words, I'm taking this note and moving it up 1 fret, okay, that creates what's called a D suspended 4 chord. So you can hear how there's a difference there. It sounds a little bit more tense. Maybe there's some tension there that needs to be resolved. Ah, there it is. We can create some movement there. It also creates a little 2-note melody. So you're kind of playing melody and chords. Okay? The second one that you can do really easily is called a D suspended 2nd chord. Okay? And for that one, we just remove our 2nd finger, thereby opening up that first string. Okay, but we're holding down the rest of the chord shape. Isn't that cool? So pretty easy to do. Okay, then you can use both of them to move a 3-note melody around. You can also do the same thing with an A chord. Okay, if you're doing this familiar A chord shape right here, okay, you can move around the note that is on your 2nd string. You can either move it, again, up to the 3rd fret, which would create an A suspended 4 chord. Okay, or you can open up that string, that 2nd string, just like we did with the D chord, and that creates an A suspended 2nd chord. And again, you can move that around and create some really nice little melodies. Let me give you a close-up of those 2 chords. So here's your regular D major chord shape. And here I'm taking my pinky and creating the D suspended 4. And I can remove my 2nd finger for the D suspended 2nd. Now here's the A chord, and I'm going to take my pinky and move that 2nd string note to the 3rd fret for the A suspended 4. Now I'm going to remove my 3rd finger, open that string up for the A suspended 2nd. You can also do the same thing with, let's say, an E chord. You can move the 3rd string note up to the 2nd fret, okay, by putting your pinky down on that string. That's another good one. You can also do it with a C chord. You can move the 4th string note up 1 fret by putting that pinky down on the 3rd fret. Or you can do it the same way with a G chord. Okay, let's move on to trick number 2. Trick number 2 is to add hammer-on and pull-off licks in between your chords. Okay, so for those who don't know currently, a hammer-on is when you're playing two different notes, one lower and one higher, with the lower one first. So the lower note you pick, and the higher note you literally hammer on your finger onto that higher note. You don't pick the second note because your fret finger is doing the work. Okay? Pull-offs are the opposite. When you're doing a higher note followed by a lower note, you pick the higher note and then you pull off of that higher note, and at the same time you pluck the string so you don't have to pick that lower note. Your fret hand's doing the work. So check it out. When you're doing, for example, an E minor chord, and you don't want to stay there all day, right? You can use the notes that are contained within the E minor pentatonic scale in an open position here to do some hammer-on and pull-off licks. Check it out. Here's the notes. We're going to go 0, 3, 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, and you can even do the next. You can also use those exact same notes to do some licks over a G chord, because the notes of an E minor pentatonic scale are the same as the notes in the G major pentatonic scale. So if you play those notes from G to G instead, that is a G major pentatonic scale. So how do you incorporate those into your chord playing? Okay, say you're hanging out on an E minor chord for like forever, starting to get bored there, you want to do something cool, stick a fill in between. Pick any of these notes from the scale. If you're going in an ascending order, you can do them as hammer-ons. If you're going descending, you can do them as pull-offs. Okay? And you can add some kind of clever rhythm to it that works with whatever you're playing. And, you know, you don't have to keep strumming the chord the entire time. You can do a lick instead. Same thing with the G chord. All right, trick number 3 is you got to learn some movable chord shapes. Now I'm going to get more in depth on movable major and minor chord shapes in a future lesson, so look out for that. But for now, I'm going to do these 3-string major and minor shapes that I call movable mini chords. So check it out. If, for example, you want to play a major chord, right? A lot of rock and roll and pop and country music is just major and minor chords. You can use this shape right here. It's, for example, if you want to make a G shape this way, what you can do is bar the 1st and 2nd strings at the 3rd fret, and then you can add your 2nd finger at the 4th fret third bar here, and then you put your second finger right here, and you only play those 3 strings. Now that's enough to make a major chord, a full major chord. Sounds a little different from, doesn't it? So how do I know that that's a G chord right there? Well, here's the trick. You have to get to know the names of the notes on just the first string of your guitar, okay? Because the root note of each of these chords is always going to be at the first string. So if you want to make a G chord, you use the major chord shape, the one I just showed you, and you position it at the same fret where the G note lies. So you'd position that at the 3rd fret, and there it is. If you wanted to make, for example, a C chord, you'd use that same shape, and you'd find whatever fret the note C is on the first string. That's here at the 8th fret. And you'd position yourself there. Okay? Now, here's the minor chord shape that we can do the same thing with. So, if we want to make, for example, an A minor chord, this is even easier. You're going to love it. We just take our first finger, or whatever finger, really, and we bar the first 3 strings at the 5th fret. And that gives us a nice little A minor shape. How do we know it's A minor? Well, the note A on the first string lies right here at the 5th fret. So all we got to do is find that root note and bar the first 3 strings right there. So maybe you want to play this B minor up here instead of this B minor right here. Okay, this is a whole lot easier. Doesn't sound good in every song or every jam or, you know, every style or whatever, but it works. So we just bar the first 3 strings right here at whatever fret we need, and we only play those 3. So you can take a progression, for example, like C, G, and D, and you can give it a totally different flavor by learning where those movable shapes are. So here's the C chord, here's the G chord, and here's the D chord. It's a lot of moving around, so it doesn't work every single time, but it's kind of cool. And it's a little bit funky. This is a trick that funk players and Motown type of players and R&B players use all the time. So maybe you're sitting in an open jam or something and the person next to you is like, let's do C, G, and D. Okay, you probably don't want to play the same chord shapes that they're playing and just pound people's eardrums with those cowboy chords, right? You might want to do something different and just really wow people, really change it up, add a different flavor to it. All right, so trick number 4 is to use more interesting time signatures. For those who don't know what a time signature is, in layman's terms, it tells you how many beats you're going to play per measure, and that means how you're going to be counting. So for example, if we have a 4/4 time signature, which we hear in countless places, like 80% of the time in the popular music of the Western world. And that just means that we're counting in 4s, 4 beats per measure. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. Every once in a while we hear a 3/4 time signature, which means 3 beats per measure, like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But There are an infinite number of time signatures that you can have out there in the world. You can have as many or as few beats per measure as you want. You can do what you want. So maybe let's look at something like a 5/4 time signature. It sounds weird in theory, but it works. We're going to be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So check it out. Here's an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A great example of a 5/4 piece is Dave Brubeck's piece, which is called Take 5. Get it? Take 5. So look that up. Another great time signature that I love to use all over the place, I don't know why, it just feels right to me, is a 7/4 or sometimes a 7/8 time signature. Either way, what you have are 7 beats per measure. So if I do those same chords like that, and we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it might sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice how I stuck in some of those hammer-on licks and a couple suspended chords? Aha! You add all those elements together and you can make something really unique out of the chord shapes that you already know and love. Okay? And a couple new ones too. A really great example of a 7-beat time signature is the song Money by Pink Floyd. That famous Money bass line, right from the get-go, right from the beginning, is 7 beats per measure. Now that song changes time signature a couple of times, but if you listen to that famous bass line, there you go. There it is. I hope this helped you. Make sure that you recommend this video to anybody you think might like it. Make sure you check out my other videos and subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And I will see you next time. Until then, keep it positive, all right? And keep riffing.